Hello, and welcome back to Sprechen Disc Golf, the most reliable Pro Tour focused podcast. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Coleman, and we have a great episode on hand for you guys today. We are going to be previewing the Dynamic Discs Open in Emporia, Kansas this weekend, starting on June 16th, running through June 18th, and I am super excited. This is a historic event. Previously, the Glass Blown Open, and I know Dynamic always puts on a really nice event, so expect a good one this weekend. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, go follow us on Twitter and on Instagram, Sprechen Disc Golf or Sprechen DG. And let's just get right into the show here. As I mentioned, we are heading down to Emporia, Kansas for the Dynamic Discs Open. Again, previously the Glass Blown Open. And this event is one of the longer events on course. It is one of the windier events on tour. And it is one of the crazier events. Usually there have been some really great battles here. Of course, we saw Worlds here last year with Paul McBeth and Aaron Gossage in that shootout going to the playoff. We also saw a crazily windy DDO last year. This event has hosted this course has hosted some really fantastic events, and now we have the updated Jones Supreme layout. And I just think this event does a really good job kind of keeping up to date and keeping itself on the calendar. As we know, there are so many great courses and great events that really could be on the Pro Tour. We've seen some new ones this year on the Cascade Challenge, Zootown Open, stuff like that. And then we've seen some historic events kind of get downgraded. Beaver State Fling, one that's not even on the tour anymore is the Masters Cup at De La Vega. And so it's really tough to kind of keep your event on the tour. But Dynamic, especially, I know Eric McCabe, those guys, they do a fantastic job at keeping this event really updated, nice, and modern, and just keeping that course updated. So shout out to the Dynamic crew over there. Yeah, last year again, Ricky won. It was a ridiculous win. Kristen won on the FPO side, and kind of interesting, both MPO and FPO had an 8-stroke difference from first to third. An 8-stroke difference from first to third is pretty nuts nowadays. We see such high competition, but that just goes to show the level of wind that was going on, how crazy it was. One of the shots that comes to mind is Brody Smith throwing that forehand upshot, a couple hundred feet, 250, 300 feet maybe, throws a nice low forehand, looks like it's going to skip up, and it skips and just blows in the complete opposite direction that it should have, and ends up trickling OB. Just ridiculous conditions last year, which can be fun to see, but it looks like we are going to be spared from that this year. The weather is looking nicer wind-wise. It looks like we're going to see maximum about 11-12 miles an hour, which for these touring pros is very manageable. The one thing we can be concerned about for sure is thunderstorms. It looks like there are going to be thunderstorms late on Saturday rolling into Sunday morning. We could definitely see the lead card for MPO and the early cards for FPO and on Sunday morning. So lead card Saturday, and then some of the final cards FPO on Sunday could definitely get delayed by that thunder. But it is going to be a hot one out there, and maybe a little bit of rain over the weekend. Pretty interesting weather setup here. Definitely different than last year. So at least we're not going to have the 45 mile an hour winds or anything, but we will have some chance of a thunderstorm kind of pushing the event farther back, or even canceling around. Last year was also important because we saw guys like Brody get their first podium. We saw a huge stack up at third place. Some of the guys that snuck into third place were Brody Smith, Vino Makala, Logan Harpool. Just a very strange event, but I think we saw like 5 or 6 guys tied for third. Kind of interesting. Obviously that probably won't happen again this year, but it was just kind of a weird thing that happened. I would be shocked if that wasn't the largest podium we've ever had at a Pro Tour event. Statman, no good on that. So kind of looking at what is important for these players to win this event, what do they need to do to take it down this year? So one of the interesting things is putting you don't need to putt great. You just don't need to putt. You just need to putt not horribly, right? With the wind, being a potential factor last year, putting wasn't necessarily a huge thing. Simon Lizotte took second place. He lost strokes putting to the field. You don't really need to be the most ridiculous putter of the weekend. Just kind of avoid 3 putts, make your short ones, make a few long ones, and get out of there with some pars. This year that will be a little bit different because of the winds being down from last year. But I think it still stands. There's still going to be some wind, and so putting okay. We might need to see a little bit better, but overall, there are other places to make up strokes on this course. And one of those is staying in bounds. Last year, we obviously saw some crazy amounts of OB with how much wind there was, but this year there should be some guys that are able to really keep it inbounds consistently. Obviously, everyone's going to go OB a little bit, but there are going to be some guys that are going OB, 10, 11 times. If those players can kind of keep it down into the 3-4 times, they probably put themselves in a good spot to win the tournament, avoiding those extra big numbers. And then stay out of trouble. Keep your single bogeys at single bogeys. If you can, save a double and avoid a triple. If you save the triple, avoid the quad. Save those strokes. Those strokes matter because everyone's going to probably take a big number. This course is tough. It's kind of designed for that. Just get out of there, get your bogey, get your par, whatever, and move on. Don't fret too much over missing a birdie. But we've seen guys take themselves out of tournaments with big numbers, and if you can help it, try and really, really try to avoid the big number this weekend, because pars will go a long way. Pars will go a long way this weekend. You might need to get a little lucky too. This event has some room. We've seen some fortunate, some not so fortunate here. There are some, especially with the way the wind plays, there are some chances you might need a little bit of luck to win this weekend, especially if you're going to beat guys like Rick, who are playing pretty solid right now and are going to their kind of home event, with Dynamic being headquartered out of Emporia. And then something Aaron Gossage showed us that is possible at this event is one angle golf. Aaron Gossage loves a good hyzer, whether that's forehand, whether that's backhand, and this course suits that style. If you're able to just throw the hyzer, forehand and backhand, you're going to put yourself in spots to score. You're going to stay, kind of keep it away from the wind as much if you can do that. And I think guys who are able to really simplify their game, put themselves in. That's the other thing, is on those par 4s, you got to put yourself in the spot to be able to throw the one angle hyzer to the basket, right? You can't just throw hyzer and expect to get it every time. You have to focus on that tee shot. Get yourself into a good spot where you can go to that one angle shot. You don't want to have to be worrying about hyzer flip and turnovers and big annies in a traditionally windy course. And especially a course with such high OB, if you can just throw it on hyzer, keep it on hyzer, not have to worry about it as much, those guys are going to be really benefited this weekend. Speaking of Aaron Gossage, could be a guy to watch out for this weekend. This is kind of I think this is his best chance to get a win, is this stretch of the season. OTB, Portland events we've seen him do very well in. Obviously last year, that playoff at Worlds. Like Aaron Gossage, if he can reel the putt in just a little bit, and this is an event that I said putting is not necessarily as important. If he can reel the putt in a little bit though, just putt solid for the weekend, we could really see a charge from Aaron Gossage here. So yeah, just keep that one angle, put yourself in good spots on the par 4s, focus off the tee. It may seem like an open kind of bomber course, but that doesn't mean you don't have to place it well off the tee, right? Because when those approach shots you get up to your lie and you're trying to throw that approach shot and you're at this, tight little weird angle, you're bringing OB into play when you're having to throw a more awkward shot. You're bringing early trees into play. You're bringing, circle 2 par putts. Get yourself into a good spot off the tee on those par 4s. You cannot let up. You cannot, lose focus for a bit. So looking at, kind of what else is going on in disc golf, some more storylines. Paul McBeth was actually able to take down the win. I believe it was at the Pro Forester over there in Europe, I think it was Croatia. He was able to take down the win. Congrats to Paul McBeth, because after that after that performance we saw at the Estonian Open, the 31st, we're beginning to wonder, what's going on with Paul. Have we seen, I wasn't saying this, but there are some people saying, have we seen the last of the beast? And I'm not saying that, this win over in Europe against a very weak field says he's back, but it looked more like Paul. It looked a lot more like Paul. He was dominant, shot some really, really great rounds, and kind of looked like his old self again. So hopefully he can bring that back over when we see him on the tour again. It will not be for a little bit. Actually, the tour is gonna go to him. He won't be back in the States, I think, until after European Open. So yeah, we will see if Paul McBeth can kind of continue that. But good for him. He's playing Kona Piste this weekend, but good for him for getting that kind of win. I imagine that's probably a burden off his shoulders to get that win under his belt there over in Europe for the season. We also had a Pro Tour event happen last weekend, and I know Hunter Thomas is ringing that bell of Silver Series aren't Pro Tours, but it was technically a Pro Tour, and this one was not only a Silver Series Pro Tour, but it was a 2-day Silver Series because round 3 got canceled due to weather, but Evan Scott was able to take it down by 4 strokes, I believe. Really, really great performance from him. I got the pleasure of watching him in person at Cascade Challenge, and he is an extremely, extremely talented young disc golfer out of South Carolina. I mean, he has that step putt working for him, and when it's on, and his putter was not hitting the ground. Putted 100% circle 1, 71% circle 2. Looked lights out, never really got phased. His only bogey round 2 was because of a really, really tough roll away. Not really his fault, so he really could have won by 5, had that not happened, but I don't think he cares if he won by 4 or 5. He is now a winner on the tour, and I imagine, going into these future years, I don't expect him to be a competitor week in, week out for at least a year or two, but, he kind of got that monkey off his back now early, where no one's really going to be talking about Evan Scott has never won on tour, or he's never won anything big. Because, okay, say what you want. Maybe that you don't consider this a full tour event. It at minimum is a large A tier with guys like Gannon, James Conrad, Kevin Jones there. You can't trash it too much. So huge congrats to Evan Scott. He is a delight to watch in person, on camera, and he's clearly one of the future killers of disc golf coming up. So shout out Evan. Storyline coming at us from DDO. We will have Valerie Mandujano back in the field, at least is what she said via her social media. I'm so excited to see her back kind of in the field because the FPO field, it didn't feel complete without her. So she's on lead card. She's actually penciled in and everything. Not just a rumor. She's on lead card tomorrow, and I am so pumped. This is her home sponsor's event now, or no, previous home sponsor. She's now on Discraft. Her previous sponsors home, and so I'm really excited to see how she's been working, how she's been rehabbing, and if she's still kind of, do we see any signs that she's taken a few months off from the tour? I've seen her social media stuff. Looks like she's been throwing a good amount now. Hopefully she is taking her time. She's fully back into the swing of things, and we get to see the full actual, Val Mandujano, and not just, kind of a shell of what we've seen in the past. So seriously, good luck to her though, because I'm so excited to see her in the field again. She throws some really, really good shots, and she kind of has a different style than the emerging style that we've seen, where we see players like Evelina and Henna who are younger, and we see them just throwing so far. She really is continuing pushing with her placement game, which I absolutely love to see. I mean, it's an underrated aspect of the game these days. People think throwing far is all you need. Speaking of throwing far, though, we had Mr. Eagle McMahon with the shoulder injury at the last event. He is not going to be present this weekend, taking his time to rehab it, which I think is the right decision. You really do. You got to look out for yourself. And I hope he takes all the time he needs to get back into, full throwing shape, because the last thing the tour needs is an injured Eagle McMahon, trying to push it. We don't want him to hurt it any worse. We kind of saw him before try and push a little bit too early, and it looks like that might have done some more damage than good. So I really do hope he takes all the time he needs to kind of get it in good standing here. We finally get Val back, and then we lose Eagle, and now Paul's in Europe. I'm not loving how the field is kind of splitting up like this, but this is kind of, this is what's going to happen as the field gets deeper and as we get more top players. They're not all going to be there every week, because we just can't have it. When there were 2 top players or 3 top players, it was easy to have a full strength field because we only need 3 guys. But now to have a full strength field, we need like 20 guys on MPO and like probably 10 FPO players. Like it's tough. It's tough to continuously have a full field. Getting into some predictions. Let's start out with FPO. FPO, we got Kristen in first. These are my predictions. We got Kristen first place, Ella second place, and in third place, I'm gonna put the one, the only, Sai Ananda. Washington native, fantastic player, great putter. We saw her throw some really, really nice shots at Zootown Open. And I'm excited to see her attack the course in Emporia. So my dark horse, I'm going to put Val. I know it's not a traditional dark horse, but that's what dark horse is all about, being untraditional. She's back from injury, so she's going to be my dark horse. She's not a far thrower, but I think she'll still put up a good fight this weekend, putting it close to the basket, making her putts and moving on. On MPO, I've got Ricky in first, Calvin in second, and Ezra in third, with my dark horse being Mr. Kevin Jones, who has slipped outside the top 30 in the UDIS World Rankings. I think Kevin's going to rebound this weekend. He has all the tools. He has the hyzer flip. He throws the reverb, his driver, pretty overstable. I think he kind of has all those slots. So I think when it gets windy, he'll be able to deal with the tailwind, a headwind, everything like that pretty well. And we know he has a powerful putt, so he'll be able to kind of push through that wind a little bit. This is more of me hoping for Kev to kind of push through. He's had a really rough stretch of events. I believe I tweeted one showing his last 6 or 7 finishes. It has been brutal, and from someone we've seen be a top 10 player for so long now, especially with the solid start he had to the year, just seeing him fall this far off the pace of the field has been really, really disappointing. I really like Kevin. He seems like a really cool guy and everything, but we just haven't seen him at his best in a long time. So I think we're all going to be missing that, and I would love to see him get back to his ways soon. Kind of going through those picks, Ricky is he's the obvious choice. Actually, let me check. I know UDisc has this probability or win probability stat now, and I would be shocked if Ricky isn't the favorite. He's going into, although I don't know if their model will take into account that it's his home event, but Rick for me feels like the favorite. It's his home event, and he throws far. It's his home event. What's not to like? Kind of interesting. If you look at UDisc's win probability, they have Gannon Burr at first and 18%, Ricky in second at 16%, then Chris Dickerson in third at 13% over Calvin Heimburg. What has Chris Dickerson done this year to deserve being over Calvin Heimburg? I mean, come on. That is very, very interesting. That is very interesting to me. But that actually is a good segue. Welcome back to the tour, Chris Dickerson. Mr. doesn't like the West Coast swing. It looked like on his UDisc he played one event during the break, the Tennessee State Championships, and he did not win. He came in second, which is not what you'd expect for a guy of his caliber. Shot some pretty subpar golf over there in Tennessee. Let's see if we can find what time he's teeing off tomorrow, actually. Because they just came out with tee times here. So Chris is teeing off early, 9:30 a.m., one of the first cards out there. So maybe he can set a pace, but I don't think this is his course. This isn't his event. I think this is... I'm shocked that UDisc has him that high. I really don't know. I don't know what went into that, making him that high up over a guy like Calvin who, has that arm. Chris is currently ranked 8th in the world on UDisc, probably appropriately, and yeah, that's really interesting to me. I'll love to dig into that formula a little bit later, not on the show, but Chris Dickerson's back. I don't know if it will be much of a storyline. I don't think he's going to shoot particularly well this weekend, so all right, let's get off this ramble a little bit. Let's move on to my bold predictions for the weekend. These are just predictions that I think have some substantiating evidence behind them, but maybe a little bit bold. So starting out with my kind of trend for Portland, I pretty almost exactly picked the winning score. So I'm going to try again, and this week I'm going to say the winner shoots 25 under on MPO and 8 under on FPO. That's what I'm going for. And then the winner also in the MPO field beats the field by 4 strokes. So looking for a 25 under and second place at 21 under. And then Val, I'm kind of going with my previous prediction. My bold prediction is that Val breaks into the top 10 this weekend. Again, I think she has a game where she can sneak into that top 10 on any course just because her upshots are so solid, and that really keeps you in it. She'll avoid the big number, and I hope she does well this weekend because it's good to have her back. We also have the Finns back in the field. They were over, I believe, in Europe for a little bit, but we will have Evelina and Henna back in the field. Let's see if they can kind of bounce back from their start to the season. So that is going to be our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. And DDO starts tomorrow if you're listening to this on Thursday. It starts today if you're listening on Friday. And if you're listening on Saturday, then what are you doing? What the heck are you doing? It started yesterday. Come on. Maybe you're watching Jomez. I don't know. It'll be live on Disc Golf Network, and then post-produced, obviously, on Jomez and Gatekeeper, as well as Ace Run Pro, I believe, will have FPO chase cards. So check it out. Check out our social media stuff. Comment down below if you liked this episode. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Sprechen Disc Golf.